Good evening. As I said, I was going to do a few short broadcasts this evening. I kind of hope that sharing some scenes from Morro Bay was nice. There will be a DVD of it later that we'll connect you with, of the talks that were given. But I had a question that I had been writing a paper for a conference, and I'm going to read a section from my paper in order to answer the question. And that is it scientifically irrational to talk about the mind or the nous being not being just a part or a function of the brain? Now, this is a little bit of a complex paper, and it's not for everyone. But since the question was asked, and since the discussion of it has come up many times, I want to respond from a point of view of quantum mechanics. And as I say, this is not for everyone, but it's for those who might be interested. I'm going to read just one little section of the paper that I had written, and it'll be delivered not until October, I think. The obvious is not always, and perhaps even seldom, what is actually true. What reality actually consists in. Occam's razor is meaningless in the realm of quantum mechanics and human personhood. The counterintuitiveness of one and the complexity of the other void any such oversimplification. Quantum mechanics radically changed our paradigms for experiencing not only our world, but the universe. The foundations of our general concept of reality have been reconstructed, and we must become aware of the participation of and effects of conscious human actions in the dynamics of this reality. Although many psychiatrists and researchers approach on the premise that mind and consciousness are purely physical or electrochemical functions and essentially deterministic, our emerging paradigms suggest otherwise. If we accept that the human brain functions in a quantum mechanical manner, then thought, awareness, consciousness should result from a collapse of a wave function, and the collapse should be a result of the interjection of the mind into the process. Orthodox Christians will be familiar with the concept of a reversal in our way of looking at the world. It is represented in the reverse perspective in iconography and in the meaning of the word metanoia, or repentance, which means to rethink, to go in the opposite direction, to reverse our perspective. In quantum physics, this reversal in our way of looking at reality might be expressed in the fact that, in the mathematical formalisms, A plus B does not equal B plus A. The order in which the mathematical operations are performed can change the outcome, even though reasonably it should make no difference. In the same vein, in the quantum perspective of reality, we have the same kind of reversal. In the words of the physicist Henry Stapp of the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, human consciousness and the effects of conscious human actions are an essential part of the dynamics. This is counterintuitive to Newtonian presuppositions in which consciousness does not participate. Ultimately, this leads us in the direction of suggesting that the nous, the mind, cannot be reduced to the physical brain. There is, so far, no clear proof of this in our purely scientific context, but neither is there a complete absence of strongly suggestive evidence. In fact, the idea and the evidence do not appear to violate the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics. I would be interested in hearing the thoughts of others involved in physics with regard to these ideas. And what I want to suggest is that one can argue, in a purely scientific way, that the soul, which contains the intellect, the mind, the nous, is not the sum total of the physical or electrochemical actions of the brain, that the brain may be a tool or instrument of the mind, but human self-consciousness and the mind itself, I would suggest, are not entombed in the brain, but rather that they're exterior to the brain, and that they function within and through the brain, and thus within and through the body. So that's simply something I want to put out to suggest, not that I have the answer, but to suggest it from a scientific point of view. There is absolutely nothing irrational in suggesting that the mind is not simply a function of the brain, but perhaps the brain is an instrument of the mind. So I just wanted to leave that. And as I say, I know that's not for everyone, but I did want to answer that question in some kind of meaningful way. So thank you for your patience and for enduring that. And thank you for joining us and being with us.